Admiral Velak Toruin sat in the vaulted chamber of the Dominion War Council, his clawed hand drumming lazily against the polished obsidian table. Holograms of fleets floated above the surface, shimmering outlines of hundreds of Dominion warships surrounding a single glowing speck. That speck, to the amusement of every admiral present, was Earth's newest warship, the UNS Dauntless. A single vessel, Velak sneered, voice carrying the smug cadence of a predator convinced of its kill. They dare field one experimental hulk against the 7th Armada? Humanity believes themselves clever, yet all they've built is a coffin for their species. The chamber echoed with laughter, deep, guttural sounds from reptilian throats, metallic rasps from insecta mandibles, and nasal whistles from avian commanders. To them, this meeting was no strategy session. It was sport. One admiral, a winged Creve, spread his plumes with mock solemnity. Perhaps they wished to surrender dramatically, offer their toy before the galaxy to be broken. Velak's eyes narrowed, a cruel smile curling across his face. Then we shall grant them spectacle. I will grind their warship into dust before every star in the Orion expanse. On the bridge of the Dauntless, the atmosphere could not have been more different. Commander Elias Kane stood at the forward viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching the empty stars. The silence pressed heavy, broken only by the quiet hum of engines and the occasional beeping of consoles. His crew moved with a nervous efficiency, no wasted motions, but no bravado either. Lieutenant Harris, a young officer with eyes too wide for war, broke the silence. Sir, reports confirm the Dominion Armada has left warp. Arrival within minutes. His voice cracked slightly as he added, estimates put their numbers in the hundreds. A murmur rippled through the bridge. Engineers exchanged grim looks. The medic whispered a prayer under her breath. Kane turned slowly, his gaze sweeping over his people. He read the fear etched on their faces, the doubt lingering behind clenched jaws. He didn't blame them. The Dauntless was their first, and perhaps last, line of defense. A prototype with weapons no one had tested in true battle. Against a handful of ships, it might have proven itself. Against an armada, it seemed madness. He spoke evenly, his tone steady but carrying steel. Numbers don't win wars. Resolve does. They believe us weak, that Earth will bow. That arrogance is their blind spot, and will drive a spear straight through it. The crew straightened, the weight in their eyes lifting, if only slightly. His calm was contagious. Lieutenant Commander Rourke, grizzled chief engineer, leaned forward from his station. Captain, this reactor's still a beast we barely understand. Push it too far, she'll tear herself apart before the aliens even fire. Kane nodded once. Then we'll ride her to the edge and no further. Precision, not recklessness. Understood? Rourke grumbled, but his hands moved confidently across controls. Kane's mind drifted unbidden to the memory of New Horizon Colony, where Dominion raiders had descended without warning. He remembered smoke choking the skies, the screams of families herded into transports, the silence afterward. Humanity had begged the Dominion for mercy then. None came. That memory had forged his resolve. He would not watch Earth fall the same way. A sensor alarm shattered his thoughts. Contact! Harris shouted. Multiple warp signatures flooding the system. The viewport shifted as tactical overlays sprang to life. Points of light multiplied, expanding into a swarm that eclipsed the stars. Hundreds of Dominion ships fanned into formation, sleek cruisers, bristling battleships, and dreadnoughts larger than cities. Their sheer presence radiated inevitability, as if the universe itself had already decided humanity's fate. The bridge fell silent, every crew member staring at the impossible wall of steel and firepower. Kane didn't flinch. He let the silence stretch, then spoke with quiet finality. Battle stations. This is what we trained for. Orders snapped across the ship. Consoles lit up, weapon crews rushed to their stations, engineers sealed hatches. The heartbeat of the Dauntless quickened as systems roared to readiness. Moments later, the main view screen flickered. Admiral Velak's face filled the display, scaled features twisted into a grin. His voice dripped contempt. Commander Kane of Earth. How quaint. Do you truly intend to pit that vessel against the might of the Dominion? Kane stared back without blinking. This vessel is humanity's answer. Laughter rolled through the channel, harsh and derisive. Answer? Your ship is a scrap heap waiting to be scattered. Surrender, human, and perhaps I'll allow your kind to serve as laborers rather than corpses. The crew bristled, anger seething behind clenched teeth. Kane lifted a hand to steady them. His voice, calm yet edged like a blade, cut through the tension. You misunderstand, Admiral. We didn't come to surrender. We came to show you what happens when humanity fights back. For the first time, Valak's grin faltered. The transmission cut. The bridge hummed with anticipation. Weapons armed, shields raised, reactor output climbing steadily. Kane's voice carried over the comm system to every deck. Crew of the Dauntless. The enemy mocks us, certain of our defeat. Let that arrogance be their undoing. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every life that trusts us to hold the line. Remember this: one ship, one crew, one chance. Make it count. A chorus of affirmatives answered him. Fear had not vanished, but it had been reshaped into determination. Harris whispered, almost to himself, "One ship against an armada." Kane's reply was quiet, but every ear heard it. "One ship is all we need, if it's ours." The tactical screen flared. Dominion ships closed in, their formation tightening like a noose. The crew braced as Kane gave the order no one had dared imagine would come. Target their lead cruiser. All weapons ready. The Dominion's laughter still echoed across the stars, but soon, Kane promised himself, the sound would be drowned in fire. And as the fleet of predators bore down on them, the Dauntless, scarred, untested, and outnumbered 100 to 1, prepared to bare its teeth. The Dauntless held its ground, alone against the swarm. Hundreds of Dominion ships fanned across the void, forming a gleaming crescent that curved around the human vessel like a predator circling prey. The sight was enough to silence even the boldest crewman. The comms flared again, Admiral Valak's scaled face filling the screen. His fangs glinted as he leaned forward, savoring the moment. "Human," he hissed, "do you truly believe that crude assembly of steel can harm us? Surrender now, and perhaps your species will live as servants. Resist, and you will be forgotten before the stars rise again." Commander Kane's expression never wavered. "You talk too much, Admiral." He cut the transmission with a flick of his hand. A collective breath shuddered through the bridge. Kane turned to his tactical officer. "Target their lead cruiser." "Locked," came the reply. "Fire!" the Dauntless roared. Its prototype rail cannon spat a slug of dense metal at a fraction of light speed. The recoil thundered through the ship's frame, rattling every bulkhead. On the viewscreen, the round crossed the gulf in a blink, smashing into the Dominion cruiser. The enemy vessel's shield shimmered once, then collapsed. The slug tore through armor, splitting the cruiser's spine. A blinding flash consumed it, fragments scattering in silence across the void. For a moment, the Dominion fleet froze. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at the impossible. A single human shot had erased one of their warships. "Direct hit!" Lieutenant Harris shouted, disbelief etched across his face. "The cruiser is gone!" The bridge erupted with cheers, but Kane raised a hand. "Save it! They're coming!" And come they did. Valak's fleet surged forward, wings of destroyers and cruisers racing to encircle the lone dreadnought. Plasma torpedoes streaked through space, trails of blue fire twisting toward the human vessel. "Brace!" Kane barked. The Dauntless shuddered as the first salvo hammered its shields. Energy rippled across the barrier, alarms shrieking as power levels dipped dangerously. "Shields holding," the tactical officer called. "But they won't last under sustained fire." Kane's gaze darted to the navigation station. "Helm, take us into the asteroid field." The ship lurched forward, thrusters flaring as the Dauntless dove toward the tumbling mass of rock and ice nearby. Torpedoes slammed into asteroids instead, detonating in fiery blossoms. Inside the field, the battle changed. The massive Dominion formations faltered, their ships forced to scatter through narrow passages. Kane seized the moment. "Gunners, fire on anything that chases us. Make every shot count." The rail cannon thundered again, then again. Slugs ripped through alien destroyers, tearing them apart amid sprays of molten debris. The Dauntless weaved between rocks, its cannons turning chunks of drifting stone into weapons as fragments smashed into pursuing ships. On the bridge, tension thickened. The ship rattled under repeated impacts. Sparks burst from a console, sending a technician sprawling. "Engineering reports hull breaches on decks 5 and 6. Rourke's voice cut through the chaos. "We've lost 20 crew." Kane's jaw tightened. "Seal the sections. Keep power flowing." The old engineer's reply came with gritted teeth. "If I push this core any harder, she'll melt us alive." "Then walk that knife's edge," Kane snapped. "Better burned out than dead in space." Rourke cursed, but his hands flew over controls, coaxing more power from the roaring reactor. As Dominion ships poured fire into the asteroid belt, the Dauntless struck back. Its secondary batteries spat streams of plasma, carving holes through alien armor. Each kill sent a surge of hope through the crew, but the cost mounted. "Medical to the bridge!" a voice cried over comms. "We're overflowing down here. Burns, shrapnel, plasma exposure." Kane forced himself not to look away from the tactical screen. Compassion could not slow his command. Every second of hesitation meant another barrage. The Dominion fleet regrouped. Larger battleships pressed into the field, firing blindly, tearing asteroids apart with colossal beams. Explosions lit the dark, sending shockwaves that rattled the Dauntless. "We can't take this forever!" Harris shouted over the din. Kane's voice cut sharp and clear. "Then we end it before they do." The Dauntless executed a sudden burn, veering out of cover and into open space. For a heartbeat, the crew thought their captain had lost his mind, until the plan unfolded. A wing of Dominion cruisers charged headlong at them, certain of victory. Kane waited until they closed, then gave the order. "All batteries, fire!" The dreadnought's guns unleashed a storm. Rail slugs and plasma bolts ripped into the alien formation. The first cruiser detonated instantly, the second spiraled away in flames. The rest broke formation in panic, leaving gaps that the Dauntless exploited mercilessly. For every ship destroyed, however, more took its place. The Dominion Armada still dwarfed them. The tactical screen lit with new warnings. "Multiple dreadnoughts converging!" Harris cried. "They're powering a combined weapon strike." On the display, massive energy signatures spiked across the enemy line. The Dominion dreadnoughts were aligning their weapons, channeling enough power to vaporize a city. The bridge fell silent. Every officer understood what was coming. In that silence, Kane spoke, not loudly, but with unshakable weight. "If Earth falls, billions die in chains. This ship stands between them and extinction. Do not forget that." The crew straightened. The panic drained from their faces, replaced by grim resolve. Rourke's voice crackled through comms, ragged but steady. "Captain, whatever you're planning, make it count. We won't get another shot." Kane nodded. His eyes locked on the tactical screen, watching the Dominion's weapons charge. The Dauntless had bled, but it was still alive. And as long as it drew breath, humanity had a chance. "Hold positions," he ordered. "Wait for my mark." Outside, the stars flared with gathering death. The Dominion's combined strike was seconds from release. The bridge of the Dauntless was lit by red warning strobes, alarms blaring as if the ship itself felt fear. The tactical screen glowed with monstrous energy readings. Dominion dreadnoughts aligned in a single, brutal formation, their weapons charging in unison. The combined blast would erase the Dauntless in seconds. Lieutenant Harris whispered, almost too softly to hear. It's enough power to split a moon." Kane didn't blink. He stood tall, hands gripping the rail behind his chair. His voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Options?" Silence. No officer spoke. They all knew the truth, there were none. Rourke's voice crackled over comms from engineering. "Core's bleeding energy. One more hit like the last, and she'll crack open. I've got no miracles left, Captain. Kane exhaled slowly. His decision was already made. Then we'll give them one of our own. He turned to the bridge. Divert every watt of power into the main rail batteries. Override safety limits. I want the reactor channeled directly into the firing system. Gasps rose. Harris spun in his chair. Sir, that overload will cook us from the inside out. The reactor could detonate. Kane's gaze held steady. Better we burn striking than drift as ash. If we die, Earth dies. If we strike, Earth lives. For a moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, hands flew across consoles. Orders echoed down the decks. The Dauntless groaned as power rerouted, lights flickering, shields collapsing. The ship felt naked, exposed, every system stripped bare to feed the rail cannons. Outside, Dominion dreadnoughts reached full charge. A glow swelled across their bows, energy converging into a blinding spear. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Kane closed his eyes for a heartbeat, seeing faces from New Horizon Colony, hearing screams that had never left him. He opened them, voice cold with finality. Fire! The Dauntless unleashed hell. The rail batteries roared, vomiting slugs at impossible speed. Metal projectiles screamed across space, each one driven by the fury of a star crammed into steel. They tore into the Dominion formation before the dreadnoughts could release their strike. The first slug smashed through a battleship, its reactor detonating in a chain reaction. The second punched clean through two cruisers in line, ripping them apart like paper. The third and fourth buried themselves into the lead dreadnought. For a moment its shields flared white-hot, then collapsed. The dreadnought erupted in a fireball that consumed half the formation. The shockwave rippled outward. Ships collided, spirals of wreckage spinning off into the void. Flames lit the asteroid belt as one Dominion vessel after another succumbed. On the bridge of the Dauntless, the crew clung to consoles as the reactor screamed. Rourke's voice roared over comms. She's tearing herself apart. If we fire again, we'll go with them. Then we make this volley count. Kane shouted. Target their flagship. Admiral Valak's ship loomed across the screen, scarred but intact, its monstrous cannons still glowing. His voice crackled through comms, filled with venom but edged now with disbelief. You, primitives, this is impossible. You cannot. Kane cut him off. This is humanity. The Dauntless fired again. The slug crossed the gulf in a blink, slamming into Valak's flagship. Its shield shattered like glass, armor splitting open along its hull. Secondary explosions cascaded, fire consuming entire decks. On screen, Valak staggered in his command chamber, the arrogance drained from his eyes, replaced by raw terror. He bared his fangs in a final snarl. You will drown in the ruins of your own defiance. Kane didn't answer. He simply gave the order. Finish it. The last slug roared, striking the flagship dead center. The ship bloomed into an expanding sun, fragments scattering into silence. Valak's image vanished forever. The battlefield fell quiet. Where once an armada had loomed, only wreckage remained. Shattered cruisers drifted like tombstones, their fires dying into cold embers. On the bridge of the Dauntless, silence reigned. The crew stared at the devastation, unable to comprehend what they had done. Harris whispered, voice trembling. We killed them all. Kane's hands unclenched from the rail. He allowed himself one long breath, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. We survived. That's enough. Systems across the ship flickered and died, the hull groaning like a wounded beast. Fires raged in lower decks. Medics shouted through comms, overwhelmed by casualties. But they were alive. Against all reason, they were alive. Rourke's ragged voice returned. Core's stable, for now. Half our systems are fried. We'll need weeks to crawl home. But Captain... He paused, then laughed weakly. Hell of a shot. Kane let the corners of his mouth twitch upward, just for a moment. Hours passed as the crew fought to stabilize the ship, sealing breaches, tending to wounded, extinguishing fires. When the chaos settled, they gathered what remained of their strength. The Dauntless limped through the wreckage of the Dominion fleet, sensors confirming the truth. Nothing capable of pursuit remained. News spread faster than light. Earth's colonies lit up with transmissions, disbelief turning to jubilation. For the first time, humanity had faced the Dominion not as prey, but as an equal, no, as a predator. Kane stood at the viewport, watching debris drift into the void. His reflection stared back, eyes shadowed with exhaustion, yet burning with something new. Not just defiance. Hope. Lieutenant Harris approached quietly. Sir, the men and women are asking, what do we tell Earth? Kane studied the silent stars, then answered in a voice meant not just for his crew, but for the galaxy itself. Tell them we are no longer prey. Tell them we are the hunters now. The bridge fell silent again, but this time it was not fear holding them. It was awe. As the Dauntless limped toward home, battered but unbroken, the wreckage of an Armada trailed behind it, a monument carved in fire and steel. The Dominion had mocked humanity's warship. They had laughed at its weakness. Now they whispered its name. Dauntless.